So, if my last review was for the cat boys, does that make this one for the horse girls? Geez, we're attracting quite the weird audience. Anyway, none of that matters. Today we're talking about Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. And yes, it's pronounced Cimarron, not Cimarron, not Cinnamon like from the Apple Jacks commercials, not Stallion of the Cinema Beats Productions, Cimarron. No, Cimarron, damn it. It's not that hard to pronounce.
Here I come, I am cinema.
More interesting than the tile shenanigans is the history this film falls into. It's caught in between two distinct DreamWorks periods, BS and AS. You don't know what those stand for? It stands for before Shrek and after Shrek. It's like biblical periods, only instead of boring old white dudes, it's about ogres and donkeys instead. DreamWorks' early lineup of films is weird, to say the least. You go from Ants to Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado, Chicken Run, then Shrek, then Spirit, and Sinbad. None of these films have anything in common. They have different animation styles and different genres. DreamWorks was clearly throwing darts at a wall and seeing what stuck. To say Shrek stuck is the understatement of the century. It won the first Best Animated Feature, and it inspired DreamWorks to make a whole bunch of films that essentially copy it. That kind of got boring after a while, so I find the before Shrek stuff to be a lot more fascinating. But what do you do if Shrek just released, won the Academy Award, and your next film has nothing to do with that style? Ah, shit. See, this is the tough part of animation. These films often take 4 years to produce. So just because one film does well, you can't then immediately pivot to what's successful. DreamWorks sure did try. They put from the studio that brought you Shrek on the cover. The opening commercial actually has Shrek and the gang recommend other movies for you to watch, including Joseph King of Dreams, which I failed to mention in the DreamWorks catalog because I don't want it to exist.
There's the classic adventure the entire family would enjoy. It's the story of Joseph, King of Dreams.
I would not include Joseph, King of Dreams in this lineup. Notice how it's in the back. Ugh. Even looking at that footage now gives me the creeps. Thankfully, I don't have to talk about Joseph, King of Dreams. I get to talk about Spirit instead. I'd like to make the case to you that Spirit is perhaps the most unique animated film ever made. There's two things about it in particular that blow my damn mind. Number one, it stars a horse. Okay, now that's probably obvious to some of you, just given the box art and the title and the horse girl joke, but look, hear me out on this one. I want to read a quote from someone who worked directly on the film. He said, "I literally spent the first few weeks with my door shut, telling everyone, go away, I've got to concentrate. It was quite daunting because when I first started to draw horses, I suddenly realized how little I knew." That person's name is James Baxter. You might not have heard of him before, but he's essentially a living legend. There's a video of his portfolio on YouTube, and he's essentially responsible for some of the most iconic shots in the entire Disney Renaissance, along with a bunch of other banger films. If you didn't know about him already, now you do. And if he says horses are tough to animate, then damn it, I believe them. It's one thing to have a horse be a side character or only show up in a couple of shots riding and stuff, but to have an entire film directly star a horse, one with realistic proportions and accurate anatomy, yeah, that's a whole different ballgame. I can only imagine how hectic this production must have been. It just brings up so many basic questions with not great answers. Like, how exactly do you animate conversations when your main character is a horse? What about action scenes? What if Spirit gets kidnapped and there's no human character to assist him? How exactly does he escape? He doesn't have hands, remember? Watching Spirit is like watching creative problem solving in real time. And the best part is, they never back away from that challenge. This entire movie is told from Spirit's perspective. Yes, you'll see human characters every now and then, but the focus is never lost. And so each new scene has its own weird challenge where you're like, oh man, that was such a clever solution. And that doesn't even get to the most challenging part of this entire thing. The second thing that blows my damn mind: none of the horses talk. Scratch that, none of the animals talk. This was already a hard movie to make, but now you've bumped it up to Dark Souls level of difficulty. They really weren't fucking around. I mean, for starters, right, like your marketing is essentially screwed. The whole reason these animal films even work in the first place is that you can have a celebrity cast and make visual puns with all the animals. That's out the window. The closest they get is Matt Damon as the narrator, and don't worry, we'll get back to him. Probably the second and most important issue, though, is how exactly do you have emotional beats in a story where your character can't talk? The answer, turns out, it's in the eyes. It sells a lot of the emotions in the scenes. Also, the expressions are really well done. This is a talented group of animators, and they managed to sell scenes where not a single character talks. Look, I'll show you one right now. Can you understand what's going on? With all the problems that this movie brought upon itself, was it all worth it in the end? I think so. One of the main benefits is that I can connect a lot more emotionally to Spirit as a character. I can't get distracted by some guy in the booth because there isn't one. It's just horse noises and horse sounds. So if you, like me, are empathetic toward animals in any sense of the word, this film can wreck you. I should acknowledge that there are other animated films that have a love for nature. There are movies that clown on humanity's attempt to disrupt that balance. Princess Mononoke is a great example of that. Problem is, you've already seen that movie. You probably love it. You probably haven't watched Spirit, however. And why I think it works particularly well in this context is because it's from the perspective of nature. Not from a guy trying to help save the forest or an evil corporation trying to ruin it. No, straight from the wildlife himself, damn it. I tend to empathize a little bit more when I'm put in the horse's shoe rather than the guy's shoe. It tends to make me want to actually care a little bit more, which I think is important for a movie like this. All right, enough of that sappy stuff. Let's talk about action. Spirit does that early 2000s move where it combines 2D animation with CG animation. They end up making that switch when there's multiple animals on the screen or when there's a heavy piece of machinery. There's one great scene in particular where a train is falling down the hill, and I like the fact that they actually made it CG because it looks so much heavier. There's a weight to it, a scope to it, and it makes the scene more intense as a result. Better run, Shotty. This is a good use of CG, by the way. Big objects like this are a great fit for the technology and blending the two. I'm a bit conflicted on whether or not to talk about the human characters in this movie. It is kind of interesting because Spirit has a little bit of a historical perspective. We follow the army, the Lakota tribe, in a very specific period of American history. And the way the film ends is less factual and a lot more feeling. As cool as that stuff is, it's not really the important part of the movie. I kind of feel similarly to it like I do in the new Planet of the Apes movies. Like, yeah, there's a whole human conflict going on, and I find that stuff interesting for sure, but bring me back to the horse, damn it. I want to see him get home. Okay, look, here I go gassing up another forgotten animated film. The last thing I want you to do is watch this after hearing my glowing review and be like, wait a minute, this is just an animated film made for kids. Like, yeah, of course it is. There are a couple of make it or break it elements that we should talk about. Number one is the Matt Damon narration. Is it unnecessary? Yeah, a lot of the times he's just talking about things that you can already glean from the scene in front of you.
I was scared, and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. But at least my mother and the herd were safe.
We didn't need that narration, right? You got that by watching the scene. It's also a DreamWorks movie from the studio that brought you Shrek, so you know, subtlety is not a DreamWorks staple. I don't mind it, one, because there had to be some sort of marketing appeal, and two, when people talk about Matt Damon, they make it seem like he's in the entire movie. He's not. It's a couple of scenes here and there. The other thing we should talk about is the music. Not the score, that was done by Hans Zimmer and is generally well liked. I'm talking the songs. Yeah, Bryan Adams is here, and he has that Phil Collins approach to songwriting where it's not really progressing the story or anything, but just sort of, again, telling you what's already happening in the movie. Spirit has a guy on his back, so the song is called Get Off of My Back. Look, this isn't really a musical. The songs are just there to enhance the emotions. If you're not a big fan of Bryan Adams, then yeah, don't watch this movie. You're not going to be a fan when he sings over important moments. But I personally don't mind Phil Collins and Tarzan and Brother Bear, so I don't mind Bryan Adams here. Actually, I think it's kind of a cool soundtrack personally, but you know, that might be a little bit of a controversial opinion, I'm aware. In conclusion, Spirit, Stallion of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a film that I think you should go see. In fact, damn it, I'm going to throw Sinbad in there too. Go watch that movie as well. I think it's important for any animation studio, DreamWorks included, to take risk and to make films that are different from what they're known for. We ended up seeing, after Shrek, so many films that kind of felt like a copycat until DreamWorks finally felt the need to shake things up. And hey, turns out they're making some of their most risky, ambitious stuff these days, and that's awesome. The Bad Guys, The Wild Robot, that Puss in Boots movie blew my damn mind and how cool it ended up looking. I wish they would also tackle some of the 2D stuff, but hey, you can't win everything. It can be important to chase trends, to make money, and to be sustainable as a studio. You know, people got to eat for sure, but it's also important to use that power and to use that influence to make films that nobody else would. And Spirit is a great example of one of those mini darts that was thrown up at the wall that I think actually managed to stick. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, gets a 4.5 out of 5 stars.